All right. Textual. Vague instructions lead to vague answers. In other words, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. Clear prompts improve accuracy and usefulness. So there's this word called AI hallucination. Many of you have probably heard of that. Um, the meaning of that is artificial intelligence can generate incorrect or even fabricated medical information. That includes citations in particular. This happens because it predicts text patterns. It's not verified facts. AI is a very super fast calculator and predictive model. It's not an actual brain. Hallucination is more likely with unclear prompts or missing context, and that's why we're here today to talk about that. So here's an example of some hallucinated references I recently got on something I was working with. Do these look like full citations? What do you think might be wrong? These are examples of what I call incomplete citations, what we call incomplete citations. They're missing key bibliographic details, which, librarians, we love that, like journal data and DOIs, digital object identifiers. So in academic writing, this problem reduces credibility and you have to correct it. So where they don't outright fabricate references, almost all of them are incomplete. And so I would say that this recent paper I'm citing here on this screen is, I don't know, I think it's fairly optimistic. Their survey says 47% of citations generated by large language models may be inaccurate or fabricated. I would, I would venture to say close to 100% are at least missing a piece of bibliographic data. So, one of the interesting things about this is, could this fact be an argument for a more robust open publishing model? Well, opinions differ on that. Saying, well, if we had all of our publications and studies in open publishing, then AI would have a better chance to get it right. Maybe yes, maybe no. Only time may tell. So, let's unpack these ideas. So, I give an example of a weak prompt up above, right about hypertension. So, garbage in, garbage out. Uh, a weak prompt like write about hypertension is way too broad. It lacks an audience, structure, and depth. And of course, this obviously leads to generic and less useful outputs. Those of us who work with students on researching databases, the health sciences medical databases, often use in our teaching the PICO model. And so it's not dissimilar from or to that. But AI is a bit more natural language focused instead of necessarily breaking down the components of a question. The point of it is you have to be precise. The more details, the better the output. So here's an example of a stronger prompt. There are a lot of conditions and a lot of details in this prompt as opposed to just write about hypertension. So, in this particular example, it helps define the scope, the audience, the length, and the sources. And so it helps guide the AI model toward a structured, relevant output. So obviously, this reduces editing time and improves the quality of your work. So, essentially, to recap, a strong prompt narrows the scope, uses appropriate tone, targets a particular population, and moves toward clinical relevance. So they're more usable in practice. Types of prompts. I'm going to talk about in detail 6 different types of prompts. Oftentimes, you can use them in combination to further revise and refine your results. Role prompting, constraint prompting, stepwise, content rich, critique, and chain of thought prompting. As I was doing the research for this project, I was familiar with role and critique, but some of the others were totally new to me. So I definitely found it useful as an information geek. So, and I hope you guys will too. So that's what I'm going to be spending the bulk of the talk on is these pieces. So these different methods serve somewhat different purposes. Role defines perspective, constraints set limits, and stepwise guide structure. Critique and chain of thought, improve reasoning and refinement. And I've given a brief example, simplified example of each of the prompt types here as well, in quotes. So, all right. Technique one, role prompting. Role prompting improves performance by assigning expertise to your AI model. This improves reasoning and consistency, and it supports better results in complex tasks. And here is an example of role prompting for medical education. You are a board certified internal medicine physician, an experienced medical educator teaching a third year medical student on inpatient rounds. So you've assigned a role to the AI model. And then here's the rest of the details. Citing the evidence-based resources in text and including AHA guideline updates from 2025 and with a few other critique or items as well, refinements as well. So we've got the role, the patient scenario, and structured tasks. So this really actually mirrors clinical reasoning steps, fits right into that model. It also integrates guideline-based decision making. So this is the way to do it, folks, if you want those precise types of results. So why is this particular example best practice in role prompting? Clear roles and structured cases improve learning outcomes. Simply put, they support clinical reasoning development, and steps also help to organize complex thinking. Technique two, which is called constraint prompting, is think of it in terms of medical databases as limiters, using limiters in your search. So the strength of constraint prompting reduces hallucinations, improves reasoning and logic. There's a strict structural output, creative thinking, and better controlled tone. So it helps to reduce irrelevant or incorrect content. Think of it as too many results in a database search. It also improves structure and control. Okay, so here's an example. Again, I've repeated that, and then I've expanded here on the constraints, all sorts of constraints. Think of this as describing the patient, what the interventions are, if there's any comparisons, and what your outcome is, basically. So, again, it's not really all that different from a PICO model of searching a database. Very, very similar. So, and why is this particular method a strong constraint? Um, Role evidence and formatting improves clarity and rigor, and this process ensures alignment with guidelines. Very good. Word limits further improve your precision rather than a very, very wordy response. Um, all right. So, a little bit more about boundaries or constraints, if you will. Here on this slide, I've expanded the constraints a little bit more in terms of the specific types you might use. Um, and these will help define what the AI should and should not do. They control your scope, evidence structure, and also ethics. In a minute, I'll talk more about ethics. So, again, another way to reduce errors and produce and improve reliability. On to technique three, and we have three more after this one. Stepwise prompting. So on stepwise prompting, this helps to break tasks into ordered steps. This improves clarity and organization and is especially useful for complex tasks. Um, I use at home, one of my hobbies is classic and antique photo restorations. And I learned quickly you just can't tell the system to do everything you want to a particular photo all in one lump. You get the most terrible results if you do that. So by reducing what you want into steps, numbered steps like number one, do this, number two, do that, number three, do that. Um, you can either try them all together at once. I've found actually, in some cases, just doing one step at a time actually produces better results. And it depends upon the context of your use, but it's not dissimilar if you're doing health research as well. So that is stepwise. So here's an example of combining the processes, the different prompting processes. So this is stepwise plus role and constraint. I've color coded the different prompts. Um, so role is in orange. I'm sorry, I should have probably picked a different color because there's not a lot of visual difference between that color of orange and red. My apologies. The role is you are a clinical researcher, and then the constraints are down below in green text. And then the steps, of course, are in red, defining the population, summarizing, concluding, et cetera, discussing, et cetera, so forth. So um, this guides logical progression, and that helps to improve accuracy and reliability. All right, so in terms of the strengths of this process, reduces reasoning error. It reduces reasoning errors, and it also supports gains in the multi-step tasks that you want it to do for you. All right, technique 4, context-rich prompting. It's a strategy that provides detailed, relevant background information, and I've got some examples there, what your audience is, uh, explaining in detail all these points: audience, purpose, domain, constraints, and then the data, um, feeding it data as well. So, in terms of summarizing that, provides background, and that which also helps to tailor your responses. Without it, your outputs are going to be fairly generic and unsatisfactory. So here's an example of content-rich prompting. And I use an example of a hospital admission note here. You will notice that I'm not choosing to work with AI directly. This is not essentially a point-by-point, point-and-click presentation, mainly because I find it easier to present this way. Plus, I don't know if you all have noticed, both on the free as well as the paid versions of ChatGPT, they sometimes get tired of you. Particularly on the free versions, they'll say, "You've done enough. No more uploads for you. No more soup for you," basically. So, in this way, I can get across what I need to get across. You all know what ChatGPT looks like. We don't need any Windows screenshots for that, but I did screenshot this one. Anyway, I belabor the point. So I've given a lot of details on this particular uh, example and prompting. So content-rich prompting provides background like audience and purpose, and it helps tailor the responses. Again, as I've mentioned, you don't, with this sort of a prompt, you won't get generic responses. So here it is. Here's my actual response. Go away, window, go away. Oops, I'm so sorry. I think I lost. Oh, there we go. My zeal to get that thing out of the way. At any rate, this is a hospital admission note. So you've got your description of your patient, some details on the present illness, what your clinical assessment is, and what your plans are. So by breaking it down in this way, getting this kind of result, is because of the context-rich approach that I have used. So again, the advantages improves your clinical specificity, enhances your evidence-based alignment. Anything we do with patients, uh, medical for medical education, what have you, we want to have everything we do, everything we research and write about and read about, aligned with the evidence-based research. So this process helps with that. And it helps again with vague and inaccurate outputs, produces more usable clinical documentation, so it generates structure. Practice ready outputs align with formats like your SOAP notes and your H&P and discharge summary. So AI is very, very helpful for that. Okay, technique 5. One more to go after this. Technique 5 is called critique prompting. Excuse me. Critique prompting evaluates a draft using academic and clinical standards with accuracy, evidence quality, structure, and guideline adherence. It helps to identify weaknesses on supported claims, poor organization, and outdated evidence. Um, Again, rating quality only helps to improve that. So here's some ideas or examples, if you will, of critique prompting. Basically, I mean, you can actually use the word critique, like in the third example. Critique this literature review for bias, outdated sources, and unsupported claims. Recommend higher quality citations, and a few others there. Here's another example of critique prompting, giving a role as well as constraints. So you're a peer reviewer for a high impact peer reviewed medical journal. Your task is to critically evaluate a draft manuscript section for scientific rigor, clinical accuracy, and scholarly quality. As my institution's sole writing support, um, I pretty much use models like this to enhance my responses to make sure that I'm not missing anything in terms of student writing drafts that they bring to me. So um, I would say, in terms of this purpose, as well as outlines and generating ideas, critique prompting has been a fabulous tool for me. Okay, advantages. It helps you to identify weaknesses quickly, proves accuracy and rigor, clarity and organization, helps to reduce bias and overinterpretation, supports iterative refinement by enabling cycles of feedback and improvement. And it strengthens academic and professional tone by aligning writing with the disciplinary conventions, using the language of the profession, in other words, helps to strengthen uh, the research. Unless it promotes higher order thinking by shifting from content to evaluation and analysis, really what AI was meant to do. Not just to spiff up your writing for grammar purposes, but to actually do higher level work. All right, the last technique I'm going to discuss today, or review, if you will, chain of thought prompting. Chain of thought prompting is a strategy that instructs the model to reason through a task step by step, making intermediate thinking processes visible to improve accuracy, coherence, and complex problem solving. And you'll note there's some overflow between some of the pieces of chain of thought prompting and some of the other techniques that I've used here, some a little bit of mechanical similarities, if you will, between all of these, with some slight slight changes or slight more detail, more emphasis in one than the other. But they're all pretty much similar in terms of what they're trying to draw out of your large language model, your AI model. So It makes reasoning explicit by using chain of thought. Again, it's useful for really, really complex tasks. So you wouldn't necessarily use this for creative writing purpose. You would be using this for science, essentially, making science. So here's an example where you see the numbered steps, defining population, summarizing, identifying current challenges, highlighting gaps in the existing guidelines or literature, and concluding with the study purpose. So this can really, really help you if you're brainstorming for a research idea, as it can help you identify where there's gaps in the literature, which translate to research opportunities for those of us researchers. So the advantages of chain thought prompting, I have several down there. So this particular method improves accuracy by breaking reasoning into steps. It reduces errors and it produces improves transparency, thusly supporting learning. And now we're moving on to more tips and tricks. So we've gotten through the six main prompting types, and there's a few other items that we need to address before our conclusion here. First is you'll want to maintain rigor and use these prompting tools and AI to help with that. Always verify AI generated claims, however. AI is not a source of truth. It's just a simple calculator. Well, not quite so simple. Not a brain. We are the ones that bring the brain to this. So use trusted databases for confirmation and double checking what AI is producing for you. You have to do your own research. AI is not a formal research tool. You can't skip that step. So as you see, you can't really write a paper just with AI and plugging a few things in and letting it go. You will have an unintelligible or inaccurate gibberish. So it's a tool. AI is a tool. It's not the be all end all. You also want to ensure clarity, and AI can help with that as well. It can help you simplify language. It can help you take care of redundancy. And particularly important for science writing, where you're writing to an audience of specialists, helps to adapt your tone for a particular audience. Now, we also have other writing tools, some of your institutions, or you may have a personal account for like Grammarly or Academic Writer being APA, writing in particular. But so I would suggest using all of those tools. Take what AI has given you and balance your text or your draft upload it into Grammarly or Academic Writer and have a double check. So more is better, in terms of the tools that we have available. It's not just about AI. Other things about this. Again, context in terms of tone for audience. Context is everything. Now, on to the real nitty gritty, and where we have educators, librarians, researchers up at night chewing their fingernails and worrying. Integrity and ethics is a real important key here. So, disclose your use of AI when it's required. Follow your journal, institutional, and conference guidelines regarding transparency and AI assisted writing. We are moving away from a model where you have to declare you're using AI to spoof up your grammar. Many journals, they don't give a flip about that. They don't care about grammar. What they most care about is interpretation. And a thesis development and such and so forth. They care about the higher learning components. protecting patient privacy, HIPAA rules, and all that stuff. Never input patient identifiers or protected health information into AI systems. Also, if you're an author or a student, take away your identifiers, your name, your institution's name. Blank all that stuff out if you're using a draft. Use AI output responsibly. Paraphrase, synthesize, and integrate AI generated text appropriately rather than copying it directly. You want to be really, really careful here. One of the things that many of us have noticed in terms of punctuation marks in particular, AI for some reason loves the M dash. And if you've got a draft of anything, particularly if you're an instructor or a teacher or an editor, you see drafts coming into you for your review, your student papers. If they're full of M dashes, you know that's AI. And it's so easy to fix that, so easy to correct that and rethink it, and have your students think, how to paraphrase, how to synthesize. If they need help with that, uh, most of us librarians are pretty well equipped to be able to help students and faculty who come to us with this particular task, which I think is very, very necessary. In order for one to be educated, one has to internalize information. So by internalizing that, our brain paraphrases and synthesizes this information. We are not encyclopedias. We have to reduce it to useful bytes. So always take responsibility for the final output as well. Maintaining authorship responsibility is crucial. Journal policies, academic policies are ChatGPT is not an author. The author is the person drafting the topic, researching the project. The author is you, it's yours. You're just using a tool, basically, to buff things up. So, final intellectual responsibility for the work remains with the humans. We own it. Okay, so here's a real best practices live workflow, and I've used this pretty much in my standard writing workshops. Generate your outline. AI is superb at that. Draft your introduction, then request a critique of what you've got so far. Think through the critiques that the model is giving you, then do your revisions appropriately. Then you can start drafting the body and repeat steps 3 and 4 as you go through that. And then last, verify your sources. We've already talked about hallucinations and what that means and what you want to avoid. All right, we are wrapping this up. Key takeaways: good prompting improves AI performance significantly and richly, but your outputs must always be checked for accuracy and ethics. Once again, the human owns this. You remain responsible for the final work. And for those of you who like to read about this sort of stuff, who find it fascinating, like I do, I've got a 2-page bibliography for you. And with that, I would like to open up for responses, questions, comments.
Right. Kevin, if you take a look, there have been a number of questions people have been putting in the comments.
Okay, there's 8, I think I see.
Yeah, there's a few. So we'll
We
start
did
with
record.
those.
We did record this.
Yes, this is being recorded.
Do you need to direct the AI to the AHA guidelines? Not always, but it's a good idea to put that in. Again, this is part of your research. You should know these things. But you're going to have to double check whatever the model gives you back. If you're using the free version, ChatGPT, this is all the more crucial because it's a little bit behind the times. I find, well, 3 years or so, it doesn't always catch stuff much past 2023, 24. And there are constant revisions, not only to AHA, but most clinical guidelines have, they'll put riders and things under their guidelines. They may not rewrite them entirely, but they'll always adapt. So your AI may not be fully aware of that, but you must be. Which AI tools are your top picks for medical writing? Well, ChatGPT, obviously. Um, I have on my phone, sometimes I will use Gemini. Gemini is a good summarizer, but it cannot provide the level of detail that ChatGPT produces. ChatGPT, by the way, if you all don't know, is a partnership between OpenAI and Microsoft. So, the richness and the robustness of that particular tool, I think, is unequaled. I'm not a tech geek, so um, I don't. And some of these tools that are superior, like for the deep science, for the statistical sorts of stuff, there are other large language model tools that are specific to that can produce the heavy science, but I don't use those. So, for everyday sorts of purposes and for a good quantity of medical writing, I think ChatGPT is the best. So, in the constraint example, did it actually give you three peer-reviewed articles? Well, I mean, you have to ask for it. Particularly, you may want six. You have to specify that. That's one of your constraints that you would use. Okay. Could imposing too many boundaries create hallucinations because the AI manufactures information to adhere to the prompt? That really, on any given day, try that, try doing that one day and then try doing it again. And you may well find that there are variations in the response. Um, the only hallucinations I have found pretty much is in the bibliographies, in your references. All of those you've got to check. Um, but as far as creating ideas out of nowhere, I haven't seen too much of that. And I know that has been addressed in terms of like surveys and inquiries. I can't cite anything in particular at the moment, but I have read where, in terms of content, it usually doesn't invent stuff. What it can do, though, is it can get it in the wrong context. So that's what I found. I've heard that one way to reduce hallucinations but not completely eliminate is to instruct the AI to state if it doesn't know the answer instead of creating one. Would love to see what other people think of the efficacy of this. Maybe we can end at that. Let's circle back to that. I haven't used that technique, but this is a good idea to add. Let me repeat this. I've heard that one way to reduce hallucinations but not completely eliminate is to instruct the AI to state if it doesn't know the answer instead of creating one. Would love to see what other people think of the efficacy of this. Open up your mics, peoples. I know you have thoughts. Do we have some heavy users of this that could answer to that?
I haven't used that. This is Dr. Reinders at the CHSU.
Hi.
Okay.
I haven't used that, but I have used that occasionally. But the big issue I have with it is that that's not built into the system. The idea that you have to prompt it to tell you that it's wrong or that it doesn't know. And I've asked it before. I said, how, what ways to, how do you reduce the likelihood that you're going to hallucinate or come up with things? And it has presented this as an option to me, but I don't know. I still don't know that I could just trust it just because I told it to not make something up.
That's a good point. Anyone else care to jump in on this?
Looks
Hi.
like we have, oh, go ahead.
Oh, um, yeah, I'm Erin Sheedy. I'm the medical librarian at the Hospital for Special Surgery. What I've been using is a specific tool for looking for articles. So there's two that come to mind. Like besides open evidence, there's also Undermined, which just sort of lists articles for you. It doesn't do as much summarization, so it goes through Semantic Scholar. And I've been having some success with that, at least for finding those like sort of like needle in the haystack type of articles. It also will ask you questions about what you're looking for to sort of narrow down, like based on the types of articles it's seeing. It'll say, like, I was doing something with antibiotic bone cement, and it'll say, like, oh, do you want it in the context of um like one type of surgery? Do you want it in the context of like efficacy? So it can sort of help with that versus using like
Wow.
ChatGPT, which is just broader.
What is the name of that tool? Could you type that into the text?
Yeah. So there's the two that I would recommend would be Undermine, is the one that I've been liking more so in the information science part. Now, some of my colleagues who are more clinical have been talking about consensus,
Uh,
which would be more similar to open evidence in that it like gives a summary. Um,
well, thank you for that. We've got some more new. Ah, my colleague Megan, who is right next door. Thanks, Megan.
No problem.
Undermined. Undermined AI and consensus. Okay, anybody else? I think I've gone through all of the text ones, all of the chat items, chat questions, comments or additional thoughts. This is, of course, AI is a fairly new on the landscape for most of us. I think 3 or 4, maybe 5 years now. I think it is. So it's just the topic du jour for certain. I hope you all have enjoyed this. I certainly did putting it together. It was a lot of fun. And I learned a lot too, in terms of how to refine your prompts to get the good stuff.
I
Thanks.
don't see
Yes, go
anything
ahead.
else. Yeah, I don't see anything else popping up. I did just put a survey link and the link to our YouTube where I will be uploading this later. But
Okay.
oh, also, Kevin, I'm assuming you can send me your slides. A lot of people usually ask for the slides.
Yes. And
Okay, I'll
I'll,
make the
I'll,
slides
I'll-
available on our site at CHSU.
yes.
So, okay, if there aren't any
All
further
right.
questions.
So, and what's next for scholarly snippets? Do you have an announcement?
At this time, I don't have anything scheduled. If someone has something they would be interested in presenting in June, I would normally say later this month, but I know a lot of us are going to be at MLA. So if you've got something for June, you can contact, library at CHSU, and we can still fit you in for June. We usually take July and August off and then start again in September. So if anyone has a topic they'd like to present, we are definitely open to that. Lots of AI stuff going on because not everyone can try every AI thing out there. So we definitely love to hear about that.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye.